Made me an entrepreneur, teaching me day after day after day till it all was a blur. Now he on tour, he could drop in your city tonight. Never the Zen coming in for the fight, making that powerful statement, saying that you meant for greatness. Better be ready for absolute motivation.
All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Listen, I may be known as the absolute motivator, but today I'm going to introduce you to the people who motivated me. Rarely do I have an opportunity to go ahead and grab a hold of people and show them the love they showed me. I try to make sure I do it, and today is that day. Every one of us who have success are successful because somebody's hand was behind us, propping us up, holding us. Today, I want to introduce you to someone who helped me develop content when I didn't know what to do when I came to social media. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Lindsay, Coach, come on in. Coach Lindsay, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Great. Listen, most people will simply go a shout out when it's like, I want to thank all the people who did something for me and say it in a general sense. I wanted to say it publicly. Thank you for teaching me content. Thank you for coaching. And you did it for free when I didn't have the ability to even begin. Now times have changed. I've grown, I've developed, and your principles have worked. Would you please tell a little bit about yourself outside of you being the coach and what the things that you're doing?
Yeah, so for those watching and don't know me, my name is Lindsay. I go by Content Coach Lindsay on Instagram, and I've had the privilege and honor of serving coaches, consultants, service providers, speakers, and even course creators and helping them to serve empowered buyers. So I made up this phrase to describe people who are already actively looking for your services versus someone who sort of on the fence. I don't know, I'm not sure. And then you have to convince and persuade. So these are decisive buyers. These are people who are looking to take action. So that's what I've done over the years. And I'm super grateful for that opportunity to help people through their content and their messaging. And we do that by highlighting two main things, which are your core values, because you want to attract aligned people to you always, and you never want to compromise on your values. Integrity is the key always, and authenticity. And then we also do that through your extraordinary approach, what makes you unique, and you can highlight those things in ethical ways. So that's what I stand behind, and super grateful to be here.
Well, I tell you what, one of the things that I appreciate more than anything is that you operate in being authentic. You move with integrity in the way that you've always communicated. The fact that if people come to you and they're honest, say, "Hey, listen, well, this is what I can do." You work around them and you give away tips like that are most people would hide as trade secrets. What makes it so that you're so open, sharing your how tos and whys in such an open platform?
Yeah, for me, when I initially was in content marketing, it was not popular back then. It was just something that I knew I loved to do. I loved creating it and I was passionate about it. And I feel like God gives us these gifts so that we can share it with the world. And I know that so many people try to gatekeep and hide and say, well, we'll pay for it in order to get access to it. And
Hmm.
yes, you can package your wisdom and knowledge into something that can be paid for. You can put that in a book, you can put that in a course, you can put that in different types of packaging, but at the same time we're called to serve. And so I've always had a motto since I began: service over sales, impact over income. So when you start with serving, the money comes, the money flows, everything else will follow. But I wanted to show up and make sure that I was serving and helping people as much as I could. And that actually led to me being able to get clients too, not gatekeeping, not holding back.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, the reason why I wanted to show you love today is because you've always been authentic. You've helped, and many of your principles I put into platform, and then here I am with a platform. And so I had to make sure I brought you on, Coach. I would like us to do Instagram. We'll go to the Absolute Motivation official Instagram. And if you can, an hour from now, if you have a moment, we'll jump on live and go back and forth there and share. That way we can help draw some traffic from our audience to help grow yours. It's all about giving back, and it's time that I get a chance to do that. Is that all right?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, then. Well, again, this is Coach Lindsay. Not only does she provide content, but she does it with character. I love the fact that we have the unifying idea, concept, belief that not only is God real, but God allows you to connect with other real people that do great things. We don't live in a mindset of scarcity where we're like, hey, if I share this, it'll be taken and I'll have nothing. We operate with the idea that if he gave it to me, then he can give me more. Again, Coach Lindsay, I'll see you in just a bit. Coach Lindsay, she's the content creating coach and helps you find your messaging. It's been an honor to not only just have that and be able to acknowledge and thank someone for what they've done, but I believe not only when you give back, you also should reach back and elevate them and give people opportunity. That's how you got her. But I want to share something with you. In my life, I've found that there are bookend people that can hold you accountable. And as you climb, you need people who are at other levels. Today, I'm bringing on Jason Van Camp and Barron at the same time. These guys are like bookends. Like if this was my offensive line, I've got two tight ends set. Both of these guys go out and do tremendous things on behalf of their faith, on behalf of their families. Who they are emanates and they change the world. Absolute motivation is not about motivation that just gets you hype saying, hey, listen, get up and go after it. No, it's get up and go with purpose, planning, and preparation. Jason Van Camp's life has been built on that. He's not only a veteran, but he helps other veterans. He takes warriors and then equips them so that they can use those same tactics in business. He wants to see warriors rise. In fact, his organization, Warrior Rising, will make you want to be a fan, make you want to follow, make you want to be connected because of what they do. When I say they give to those who gave all, and Barron, man, Barron has done so many amazing things in his 30 years as an entrepreneur, but also as you're going to see that he is probably one of the biggest names that have ever existed in yoga. I mean, he impacts lives majorly. Without further ado, let me bring them on. Ladies and gentlemen, there's my Baron, and that's Jason Van Camp. First of all, thank you both for even coming on today. And there was a reason why I asked for both of you. Do you even know each other, by the way?
We do.
How do we know each other? Tell me.
Yeah, you and I have met, Jason. I attended your event for veterans in Salt Lake City. Also, I think we met through Sean Finnegan. Yeah. At
that's right.
One of those rooms. Yeah, X room or something.
We met at an X room. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, that's why the world is too small for great men not to have run across each other. One of the things I've learned with Jason meets so many people. Jason will do that. He's like, where I know you from? You know, then you remind him, he's like, now I remember. So he has one of those things, his Rolodex is so wide, man, but then he remembers that he charts you. The reason why I even asked both of you guys on, you do so many different things, but our audience, man, needs something different, and that you bring to the table. Ben, you guys both are entrepreneurs. Ben, you had 30 years as an entrepreneur?
Yes, sir. 30 years, 3 decades. In the trenches, boots on the ground, crawling, scraping, failing, learning, and catching the wins when I can.
Wow. Jason, you actually help veterans become entrepreneurs, teach them, coach them. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. We help veterans find their purpose again through business ownership. And so I was talking to some guys yesterday about post-traumatic stress, and I said, what's the solution? Acceptance? Is it self-forgiveness? What is it? And they said, listen, the solution is meaning and purpose. And that's what we provide at Warrior Rising.
I love that. In fact, Barrett, if you would tell me, how did you begin? I mean, we have all these people that he touches with that, but how did you begin that 30-year journey?
I started in the early 1990s in Los Angeles teaching something called power yoga. So I appreciated the physical workout and the deep breathing aspects of yoga, but I didn't relate to all the new age. You think of yoga and you get a lot of associations. You think of chakras or orange robes. And I was like, but there's something very practical in the physical practice and the deep breathing. So I stripped it away of all the kind of new age gooey stuff, created a very straightforward workout, and I called it power yoga. And immediately people started connecting to it because it really, got people out of their heads, out of their thinking. It got them into their bodies, into their breath. It got them into the present moment in a really powerful way. And I started just teaching that. It blew up out of the stratosphere. I was having like 2,000 people a week coming through my classes. And then that's where the entrepreneurial side of me kicked in. And I was like, how do I scale this? So I started training other trainers and then opening studios and created a flagship studio in LA and scaled that into over 200 studios globally. And that's kind of where it started. And that's where I ended up.
Man, listen, I don't know. You said that like I got up, I had breakfast and all. I know that journey is amazing that you went on. But the way that God used to bring you from where you were to where you've gone to, along the way, what were the things some life lessons, some things you learned about scaling, growing, developing, even expanding the way you did?
Yeah, I think if I look at the one thing that has pulled me through over the years as an entrepreneur is being committed to something bigger than myself, having a vision and a purpose. And for me, it was really just wanting to make a difference in people's lives. And I always felt like I had a debt, like I had amazing mentors in business, spiritual mentors, people that at each step, especially in the hard places, when I'd get stuck, my knees would hit the floor and I would have these mentors that would pick me up and coach me through the hard times. But it was really the being up to something bigger that would keep bringing me back. It was something bigger than myself that would have me get back up on my feet, begin again, shake off the dust. And failure, I'd have, when you're an entrepreneur or you're standing for others, you are going to hit hard points. You just, it comes with the territory and you're going to fail. And when I was younger, I'd fail at things and I would take it so personally. I would feel, devastated and like wanting to quit. But then I at a certain point, I started learning that failure was the learning. Failure is where I got to discover myself, learn about myself. Failure was where I got to discover better ways of doing what I was doing, better ways of relating to people, better ways of showing up for people, better ways for showing up for myself. So essentially, I learned how to, and I think this is valuable for everyone, is like how to extract the gold out of failure, how to extract the learning, what there is to learn, and then quickly shake off all the rest of it. Leave all the, guilt and all the mistakes you made, leave that behind, step in front of it and pull the gold forward and put it in, implement it.
Man, I'm loving that because that ties right into what Jason began for, right? For you, it was the same thing. It was like, man, how do I change lives? That was that's my so that, right? Instead of why, it says so that. I want to be successful so that I can touch lives. I want to win so I can continue to touch lives. I want to grow. I want to develop, but I want to be growing as I'm going along, and he's doing that. About you now, Jason, you started with Warrior Rising, and how did that begin? Helping entrepreneurs. What was that journey like based off of the things that he was sharing? I mean, what's the correlation between the two principles?
Well, I'll tell you the story, the origin story of Warrior Rising. I'll try to be brief on it. So when I retired from the military, I asked myself the same question that all veterans ask. Now what? What am I going to do with myself? And my mother used to tell me something when I was young. She used to say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You know, if you want to be a starter on the football team, hang around the starters. But it goes both ways. You know, if you find yourself hanging around some deadbeats and some guys that aren't really doing anything, then you're going to find yourself doing nothing. And so I looked around and my friends were all starting businesses, and a lot of them lived in Utah, and a lot of them had already sold businesses. And I said, you know what, I'll be an entrepreneur. So I started a company called Mission 60. It's a leadership development company, and it became successful. And we started working with a lot of NFL teams. And this one particular time we're working with the Oakland Raiders. And after this whole season long contract was over, my guys and I were sort of celebrating, and I brought out a lot of guys, wounded guys, guys that were blinded in combat, guys that were suffering from post-traumatic stress, along with guys I served with. And the guys were telling me, man, Jason, it's great to be back on our team. I said, you know what, it really is. And the guys that got a chance to keynote and speak, it's really cathartic for them, and it's really powerful for the client. And as we're talking about life, you know, we start talking about purpose. And guys are saying, Jason, we sort of lost our purpose, you know, well, what are we going to do now? And I said, well, what's your life like? And they said, well, we get a large disability check from the government, and there's all sorts of charities that take us hunting and fishing and build homes for us. And I was like, well, man, that's awesome. And they said, well, it's not that awesome. We didn't ask for this stuff. We go hunting, we go fishing, we have a good time. We come back home, nothing's changed for us. One of the guys, he's a triple amputee Marine, you know, and he's like, Jason, I came home after I got blown up, 19 years old. Everybody called me a hero. I didn't feel like a hero. I just felt like a guy who stepped on an IED. And they built a home for me. I didn't ask for it. If they would have asked me, I would have told them I wanted to build this home for myself. I wanted to earn it. That's why I joined the military. I wanted to serve other people. I wanted to do other things for myself. I don't want people just to give me stuff all the time. And I said, okay. And the guy said, you know, I sit outside my home all day long and I smoke weed because I just don't want to go inside, because I don't like the feeling associated with going inside this house. And ultimately for that individual, that turned into harder drugs, which turned into him going into prison as a triple amputee, right? I stuck with him. I helped him out. And when he got out, I gave him a job, you know, but that's neither here nor there. As we started talking about these challenges that these veterans were facing, and what it came down to was they said, how'd you find your purpose again, Jason? I said, you know what? I found my purpose again by starting a business. It gives me a chance to be creative. It gives me a chance to bring you guys back on a team, add value to the clients, build something special, make money for the company, for you guys, for myself. This is my purpose. And the guy said, we want to feel that same way. We want to do that too. We want to start businesses. And so we started talking about business, and what we found out was these guys knew nothing about business. You know, I said, if you want to start a business, you have to have an idea. What do you got? And we all talked about these ideas, and everybody had an idea, and most of the ideas were terrible, you know, as you can imagine. And then we talked about why those ideas wouldn't work. And some of the ideas were really good. And one guy in particular, he's like, Jason, you liked my idea. Here's the thing, man, give me $50,000. I need you to be my COO. I need you to do these. I was like, hold on a second. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. You're going to have to show me your business plan and your pro forma and your operating agreement, your SWOT analysis. I started going through all these business terms, and this individual was like, I don't even know what that is, man. And I said, well, if you don't know what it is, don't start a business. He said, well, how do I do this stuff? I'm like, listen, you're smart, man. Just Google some stuff, figure it out. And we ended that conversation. We celebrated the rest of the night, had a great time. And I went back home and I started thinking about this stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm in a position to do something about it. And so many people just talk about things, or they half-ass things. And especially in the nonprofit world, a lot of people start nonprofits for their own personal benefit, you know? And I said, I want to really help these veterans out, but I don't know how to do it. So I sort of just haphazardly started a nonprofit. In the first year, we helped 6 veterans. And 9 years later, we helped 9,405 veterans alone in 2023. This year will be well over 10,000 alone. So we're growing significantly, and we're helping veterans for free. You know, it's a 501c3. So the veterans, we charge them nothing, and we never will. All of our services are free, and we help them in the most altruistic way I know how. It's helping them help themselves. And so that's what we do at Warrior Rising.
Man, I love that. Now I'm going to bring it to both of you guys totally different, because when I say I love that, I don't want you guys to hear me surf over that word. But just like disrupt the drift is, man, you guys are disruptors. You change, you do stuff differently. I grew up, man, and there was none of those options available. The closest thing I knew to an entrepreneur was the guy who owned the car wash down the street. But the most successful person I ever saw were drug dealers. They seem to have it all. But when I would watch them, they didn't live long, including my own brother. And as a result of it, it seemed like the safe plan, the best plan, is to go to school, get me a job, put in the work, wait there 30 years, 40 years, whatever it takes, retire with a sense of dignity and honor. I took care of my family. It didn't matter if I was happy or not, as long as I took care of my family. And man, I got in that rut. When I was in that rut and I was putting in that work, what I found is that it took me away from the very family I was building. And the more that I was away from, the more I was missing moments, the more distant things got. And I wanted them to understand or translate that love meant I had to put in work. Love meant I couldn't be there. My love was you got lights on, don't you? Love is I paid the bills, isn't it? And there are so many people that are in our audience that are watching right now. Man, you're speaking to, if this were watched hours you guys needed on the channel, everything be taken care of off of this show right now. And I'm asking you, if you would, tell me, how did you break that mentality? I'll begin with you, Baron. How did you disrupt? How did you break the thing and say, I'm going to not follow the path that they say, go to school, get a degree, get a job, buy the dog and get the house? How did you disrupt the whole thing? And how did you change?
Yeah, well, like what Jason was speaking to, like most people don't know about business, and I certainly didn't. You know, I didn't finish high school. I ended up getting like a GED, and I had no real education. I had a parent, my father and my mother were entrepreneurs. So I had that role model of my parents were uneducated people. They came from background of immigrants. No one really knew how to do it. But what I learned from my parents is you just get into action. You've got to just start doing the thing somewhere. And I know for myself, I've done a lot of things in my life that if I listen to the voice in my head, it was like, I don't know how to do that. I'm not good enough. I'm not educated to do that. But I ignored that voice and I just started doing the thing in a small way. I think it was St. Paul said, do not despise the days of small beginnings.
Yes, sir.
And Emerson said, do the thing and you will have the power. And even, I started a podcast and about a year and a half ago, I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I didn't know my message. But I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to start putting my voice out there and figure out the message. And when you start doing the thing, in some small way, you just keep taking the steps. You start at each step, you get some new clarity. And then maybe you realize, oh, I need a business plan. I've actually never really worked off a business plan. I've just been more of like at each step, what do I need? Or who do I know that maybe knows what I don't know that could help me? And at each step you learn, but you're in the action, the doing of it. And that's where the learning happens. It's also where you discover yourself. And then pretty soon you're going along and you're doing the thing and you start getting some wins. And then you see, oh, wait, I can do this. And usually the failures outweigh the wins. But if you're someone who's committed, and again, committed to something bigger than oneself, and you just keep moving forward on that vision you have, and in small ways, God will bless you. And the right people will come into play, but you're someone who's out there doing it just in your own way with whatever level of ability you have.
Man, that's gold. That's gold. Man, Jason, come on, talk to me, man. You do it for veterans. How do you talk to this audience now, man? We have grown this thing. I've seen the people, but I see how they communicate. I see how they talk and what they ask for. And the thing that most are asking for is very simple. How?
Well, first, I didn't get a chance to say thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate that. I'll be your left tackle all day long and then some, right? I'll tell you this, man. Not everybody is an artist, but everybody's a critic, right? And I like to write, and I've written a few books, and I'm writing another one right now. And I'll tell you what, it's hard to start writing. You have a blank canvas. It's hard to start doing that. But once you have like a chapter in and you kind of go back and you edit it, that's actually really fun. And it's actually pretty easy. because you can go through it a couple times and you can edit some things and you can put some different words in there and you can do it. And a lot of people have a desire to write, but all they're willing to do to put in the work is to be a critic, right? And that's all about business. People want something, but they're not willing to put the work in to get it. And I think about a friend of mine who was talking about his life, and he's become very successful in business. And we talked about why. What's his motivation? And he told me, he said, you know what, Jason, I came from a broken household, and my father was an alcoholic, and he used to beat me. And I could have fallen into the same trap when I got married. I could have fallen into that same trap and been like my dad. I could have been an alcoholic. I could have beaten my kids too. But I became a transitional character, meaning I dug my feet into the sand. I said to myself, there's no way I'm going to be like my father. I'm going to be the opposite. I'm going to be there for my kids. I'm going to be there to help them with their homework, to be there at their sports, to push them along, to nurture them, to help them, to do all those things. And as he was doing that, he started thinking about his own father. And he said, you know what? It might not be entirely his fault, because I look at his father, my grandfather, and he was an alcoholic. He beat him up. And so he just followed in the same pattern. And so at some point, there needs to be somebody with the courage and the bravery to step up and say, no, I'm not going to stand for this any longer. I'm going to do something about it. And when you find people in life that say, I'm going to do something about it, you plant your flag with them, right? And there's a lot of people that say they're going to do something, but they don't. When you find somebody who's actually doing something, you go with them.
Man, listen, I got to tell you, I love both of you guys, man, because of your
Love you
origin
back,
stories.
man. Love you back.
Yeah,
Sure.
Listen, I got to tell you something, man. And today is, I just go with, I've been following my heart in this thing. I was ashamed of myself, man. My father had said, there's no way you could be my son because you're crippled. Hell make cripples. There's no way you could be mine. Didn't matter that I grew up with the same height, with same size shoes, same freckle pattern, all those things. There's no way I can make a cripple. 3 times he blood tested me, and each time he come back and say, I just can't imagine me with a cripple. So the idea of what I could be or what I am was struggling with me, because the whole identity thing of like, man, if the people that are supposed to be loving you and unconditional reject you, then who's there for you? It creates this barrier, trust issues, allowing people close because of wounds that you can carry. My mother gave me away to my grandmother to do the rearing, but I look at it now, and sometimes people stepping out of your life can be the best protector of your life. As I've grown, I look back at the man that he is, and I've used it as an opportunity to be that transformational person in the bloodline that said, no matter what shame that was on the name, no matter what struggles we had, I got to be the one to make a difference. You men have been that. You men have elevated the name of your last name above anything. And you've changed bloodlines for other people. When you did power yoga and you got people in, 2,000 people weren't showing up for yoga. They were showing up because of what was in you. They were showing up for the purpose, for the impact that you were making. Jason, you have warriors, these people who stepped in. I wish I could have served. Every man in my family that I ever looked up to, ever admired, wore the uniform. Every branch. And so I wished I could have, but I didn't qualify. And I wish I could have been that man that stepped in the arena. So since I couldn't step in the arena, I had to cheer from the stands. But I had to make my voice last to make it matter. And so I began to go to the VA hospitals and work with veterans, teaching them how to walk. But I still didn't want to acknowledge to the world that I was missing a part, because I felt like I wasn't whole. And then I learned that God's never been looking for people with limbs. He's looking for people who will be his hands. Whose life are you willing to touch? How are you willing to change? And so when people ask, how did this thing grow? April 27th of 2023, I quit my job. I was an employee up until then. Greatest moment I ever had, and I'll come back to you guys with this one, is the day that I quit. I drove into work and I put on a suit, and I didn't wear a suit to work because I worked and I built trucks. I worked for General Motors. I'd been doing the same thing for 12 years, 4 years as a temp, 16 years total. I had been the same guy doing the same thing every single day. It was Groundhog Day. It was 6 days a week, 12 hours. I was gone a day because it was an hour and a half drive one way, the opposite direction of home. And the day that I went in to quit, I didn't have anything else lined up, but I knew I had missed too much of life. I show up at my son's soccer practice, James. And when I walked out of the car and I saw him on the field, he's running. He stops, sees me, stops running, and breaks down and cries just by my presence. And I thought, man, that if I'd have known it meant that much to him, if I'd have known that just showing up, it wasn't enough that I had bought the best shoes for him. I'd been all those things. I'd been providing. There wasn't a time that I didn't provide. I always was a provider. And so I'm like, man, well, then the younger son, 1 year younger, we go over to the tennis court where he's practicing. He jumps over the fence, over the net, runs over it, he cries, and he wets up my whole front of my shirt. And it was then that I realized I had traded out my dreams for my destiny. Destiny mattered. I should have chased those dreams. And now that I'm in that place, I want others to have that. And so on behalf of everybody you have ever touched, for the people that are listening now and heard your how and why and what you do for others, thank you. From my heart to yours, thank you. Thank you for being bold enough. Thank you for being strong enough to go out and do something. I didn't want people to have motivation. I wanted motivation to matter. I wanted inspiration, aspiration. You guys are both that. Jason, what you said about planting a flag for other people, to give us a nation, to give us something to follow after. For a warrior to be wounded but realize his enlistment isn't over. I still need you. Baron, what you do, what you've done, and you carry yourself with such quiet dignity. There's no bling on you, man. There's always been this. Well, every time I've seen you, man, you look good, you're in shape, but there's none of this flashiness. Yet you came up from nothing and built it into something. If I can ask you, man, what keeps you humble? What's kept you so that you didn't get enthralled with trying to ball out? You've gotten great things, but the great things are just tools. They're not your definition. What got you that mindset?
I'll tell you, I think one thing is having great mentors, and great friends, people like you. I'm grateful to have you in my life, and people that, they're not yes people that don't agree with you, and people that, at each step for myself, as I would gain some successes, looking back, it was really important that I had people that had helped me knock the pedestal out from underneath my feet. Because the ego really quickly, can go to your head really quickly, and that becomes your ceiling. And to have people around you that elevate you, but also keep you humble. And I think it does start within your own heart. I know in myself, I wanted to create other leaders so people could lead their own lives. At a certain point, I realized I don't really want followers around me. I want to stand shoulder to shoulder with other leaders. And so putting myself amongst other leaders from the military background, or leaders in business, or leaders in the community, or people just leading their families in a way that I had really admired and inspired me. But that the ability to kick the pedestal out within yourself, and to always come back to a humility and repent. I know that, at times when pride has taken over my mind and my ego, it's been really important that I have had that ability just to repent, like lay down my ego, get sober within myself, get clear of who I want to be and what I want my life to be for. And to have people, I think, around you that elevate you, and to let go. And this has been a real pain point for me, because I I love people. I love working with people. I love being around people, but you also have to have a sifter where you sense the people that are, drag on you. I call them dragon people, because they drag on you, and it can be very subtle and unconscious, but to be able to just let those people go or keep them at a distance, because the people around us impact us. And I would point to having really good people around you and keeping your eyes open.
Run with the starters if you want
Yeah.
to start. Yeah. Jason, what are you even doing next? What's next? What do you have coming up for the veterans? What impact do you have?
Well, hopefully that is what we're going for, is impact. Real, authentic, measurable impact. So third and fourth quarters are always busy for us. So what we have going on the rest of the year is we have a September business shower for our veterans in Detroit, Michigan. And James, you're going to be there. You're going to be speaking. We're fired up for that, man. GM is going to be a part of that. They're going to let us go to the Milford Proving Grounds and race some of their brand new experimental military Humvees. They're going to do some stuff with Corvette there. And then we're going to have this beautiful business shower to provide the veterans everything they could possibly need to succeed in business. We are acquiring the Military Influencer Conference in Atlanta. Next year we're going to acquire it. This year we're going to it. We're going to have another small little pitch competition there for the veterans. John Stewart is going to be there, I think, virtually. And then we're going to Salt Lake on November 22nd at the Eccles Theater. And that's our biggest event of the year, 2,500 person theater. We're going to try to see if we can get that thing packed. And we're holding an ultimate raffle for certain individuals. And this is a private event, right? So if anybody's interested, hit me up at my email, jason@warriorrising.org, and let me know if you're interested in attending the event. And Nate Bargatze, the comedian, will be our headliner there. We're pretty excited about. And then Washington, D.C. on December 12th is our final business shower of the year. Martha Stewart is going to be our keynote there. And then we're going to the Army-Navy game with our veterans and our sponsors and donors on Saturday, December 14th in Washington, D.C. And then I'm going to give my team a couple weeks off for the vacation, for the holidays, and then we're going to hit it back up really hard in January 2025.
Man, dude, I love that. This is what I want to say to both of you guys. Man, I want you to think about something. This is where my thought is right now. When I started this thing, I started speaking, Baron, I had no idea that people would be responsive like this. A year and a half, when I left, there was nothing. I had no income. We didn't have half as many, man, Instagram, Absolute Motivation Official was probably like 6,000 people, followers, if that, right? And now there's 630 something thousand. And that same in a year and a half. And then I looked at YouTube. For us to have over 205 million views now, when we began, it was nothing, of course, but March of last year, to have seen it grow from where it was to where it is now, I couldn't have seen it. I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't know that, but I do know this, is your gift makes room for you. And I don't believe that God has brought us into this realm, into this era, into this moment without us expected to make an impact. And so then I was looking around and I saw we had all these speakers who've been gatekeepers. They go around, they got one speech, they travel around, they keep it close knit. Who gets in, who gets out? They elevate each other and they make sure they keep others out. And what I learned is that I didn't need any of them. And that we already had the audience. And since I had the audience, when we go somewhere, we fill that place up, and there was absolutely nothing I needed from them, which made them then come after me. And like, hey, we should work together. But then if I join in with them, well, I would just have been the same thing. I said, man, what if we found different people who had a different voice to speak to the world? Instead of your microphone being a microphone, turn it into a megaphone, amplify that. The thing about absolute motivation, instead of it being named, could you imagine if we named it James DIxon, right? So you name your own brand, you make your own name and all that stuff. Then how do you sell that? What goes with that? Your name will die. There is only one name that throughout all of history that has lasted generation to generation. All other names are forgotten. There is only one name that knees will bow at. There's only one name that will last, but it is not James, it's not Tony, it's not Les. Those names will die, and the last person that loved on you knows you're gone. Think about all the famous people that have spoken in all this time. In a generation or two, they go, Humphrey Bogart is only mentioned, that thought of now when I say his name, but he is not forgot. He is forgotten by the general public today. No matter how big you are, there comes an end. Unless you turn it and make it about something bigger than you. If you can disrupt the drift. If you can change things, if you can help warriors rise. And so, man, I'm looking to surround myself with people who become voices that speak into the rest of lives, and motivation that moves people beyond getting hyped. Well, you guys, thank you. I want to just thank you and say, man, it was an honor. I want you to think about that. What's your so that next? What do we do with the platforms given? You have a voice, you have something you've gone through so that you can become more, so you can serve more. I know at the end of this thing, I've been able to go back and pay back child support. And I'm not talking about dollars. I'm talking about being support with my kids. I closed with it. My son, we had a moment, we call it the car can wait moment. I asked him, what did he want after graduating, top of his class there in Indianapolis this year in high school? What do you want? You want a car? He'd been sending me cars. And he's like, Dad, there's one thing I want more than car. I said, what is it? What do you want? You've been sending me Jaguars. I mean, I can't imagine you want a jet or something like that. He goes, no. Can I have time with you? The car can wait. And I thought, if all you want is more time with me, you got it. And so my son said, I want to take a year off school and just be with my dad. Man, this is the win for me. The car can wait. Material things can wait. The relationships that we all need, the impact that we are looking for, the difference the world is looking for, guys, it's right there in your mirror. If you want to change, you want to be a difference maker, you heard these two gentlemen share from their heart, from their lives, from their experiences. It was about others. If you want to grow, you got to serve. And if you can find a way to serve, then people will come. And then you have to have the nerve to know how to cut ties with people who are dragons, people who pull you down. You got to know the right people. And then like Jason's mom told him, you want to be a starter, hang with the starters. If you want to change, if you absolutely want to become a motivator, then you got to be motivated to cut loose those things that pull you down. And then you got to be willing to get up yourself. Are you willing? Are you ready? This is James DIxon on behalf of Absolute Motivation. For the whole nation, or 1.5 million of you that are here, let's keep growing individually, personally. It's not about the number. It's about making yourself count. God bless you all. God bless Baron. God bless Jason. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jason.
Made me an entrepreneur, teaching me day after day after day till I was a blur. Now he on tour, he could drop in your city tonight. Never the Zen coming in for the fight, making that powerful statement, saying that you meant for greatness.